After Saviors of Uldum and the Barnes balance change, the wild metagame has changed considerably. Many old staples like Quest Mage, Big Priest, and Odd Paladin have been cast aside for new pillars of the format like Secret Mage, Snip Snap Warlock, and Hand Buff Paladin. Even with so many changes, Odd Rogue remains a consistent presence in Tier 1, despite the deck not receiving any serious upgrade from Saviors of Uldum. Why is Odd Rogue still a good pick? Join us as we break down how the deck works and review its strengths and weaknesses. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to the Tempo Storm Hearthstone YouTube channel to keep up to date on the latest developments in the wild format. Now let's get started. Odd Rogue is a tempo-style rogue deck that revolves around Baku the Mooneater and its upgraded hero power. With Baku, you can only play with odd cost cards in your deck, meaning you don't have access to staple rogue spell cards like Backstab, Sap, and Eviscerate. Instead, your deck is built around 1-drop minions like Swashbuckler and Pharaoh Cat, and 3 drops like Evil Miscreant and Hench Clan Thug. To make up for the lack of spells, you have the Poison Dagger's hero power. Much like pre-nerf Fiery War Axe, playing a 2/2 weapon on turn 2 allows the rogue to start controlling the board from the very start of the game. Since it's your hero power, it doesn't cost a card from your hand to play, and you always have access to it. This means the rogue can use the weapon at will to manage the board and push damage to the face. Poisoned Daggers is arguably one of the most powerful hero powers you can start with, and its consistency pushes Odd Rogue to the next level. Odd Rogue is an aggressive tempo deck, meaning it wants to curve out by playing minions and spending as much of its mana as possible on every turn. Ideally, the rogue wants a 1-drop on turn 1, its hero power as a 2-drop on turn 2, a 3-drop on turn 3, and so on. This curve takes control of the board from the very start, making it difficult for your opponent to develop their own minions without being traded away by your hero power. Not including Patches the Pirate, the deck plays a total of 10 1-drops. The deck's 3-drops all play well with this widespread of 1-drops, with South Sea Captain buffing your pirates and Magic Carpet turning your 1-drops into rush minions for removal. Going into the mid to late game, you'll want to use 1-drops to fuel your combo effects like Vile Spine Slayer and Evil Miscreant to push your advantage even further. With the board firmly under your control, Fungal Mancer and Lotheb help you push even more damage so that you can close out the game with Leroy Jenkins. If your opponent deals with your threats and you fall behind, you still have the tools to come back thanks to random card generation from cards like Swashbuckler, Pharaoh Cat, and Evil Miscreant, in addition to tempo swings from Magic Carpet, Vile Spine Slayer, and Dark Iron Skulker. With Odd Rogue, your goal on the Mulligan is to craft a hand that gives you a play you can make on every turn. Since the deck revolves around its 1-drops, it's of vital importance to have at least one of them in your Mulligan, so you'll want to mull completely if you don't have a 1-drop in your opener. Among the 1-drops, the highest priority keeps are the Pirates, since they allow you to pull Patches on turn 1. If your turn 1 play is accounted for, you can consider keeping some 3-drops, with South Sea Captain and Hench Clan Thug being strongest against Warlock, Priest, and Druid, and Evil Miscreant being strongest against Paladin and Rogue. In rare cases against Warlock and Paladin, you'll also want to consider keeping Ironbeak Owl to deal with buffed mechs and taunts. You can also keep a Vile Spine Slayer when you're on the coin, but only keep these cards if you already have a strong turn 1 and turn 3 play. You'll generally want to send back other cards, but be careful not to mulligan too aggressively, since drawing Patches the Pirate or Baku the Mooneater in the mulligan can have a disastrous effect on your win rate. If your opening hand has turns 1 through 3 covered, and Patches and Baku are in the deck where they belong, then the hand is sure to be a strong keep. With the power to dominate the board from the very start of the game, Odd Rogue is at its best against other board-centric aggro decks such as Even Shaman and Mech Hand Buff Paladin. Matchups against most combo decks like Darkest Hour Warlock and Quest Mage are also good, since you can push damage quickly with your early minions and hero power. On the other hand, your matchups against control decks like Reno Warlock and Jade Druid are typically very poor, since you'll likely run out of gas against their waves of removal and healing. To beat these decks, push damage to the face as much as possible and lean on your card generation like Swashbuckler and Evil Miscreant to reload and keep the pressure up. Snip Snap Warlock can also be a rough match, since they have fast removal along with a combo that can be set up as early as turn 5. When fighting Snip Snap Warlock, be sure to keep their mechs off the board to avoid the OTK and pressure their life total aggressively. If they push for the wide board combo, you'll want to be in a position where you can make your own push for lethal in the following turn with Ironbeak Owl and Vile Spine Slayer to neutralize any taunts. Against Secret Mage, you have a fairly even matchup as long as your board isn't swept, so be sure to kill Arcane Flak Mage with your dagger on sight, and always keep Flame Ward in mind when making your attacks. Thanks to its wide assortment of 1-drops and the upgraded hero power, Odd Rogue has one of the fastest and most reliable starts in all of Wild. With that being said, the deck's dependence on early game minions can be easy to exploit. AoE removal is the Achilles heel of the Odd Rogue, since the rogue relies on its minions for the majority of its damage. The Poisoned Dagger's hero power gives Rogue consistent damage over time, but other than that, the only sources of burst damage in the deck are Leroy Jenkins and South Sea Deckhand. This means that control decks like Reno Warlock can dominate Odd Rogue simply by keeping the board clear and surviving until the late game when powerhouse finishers like N'Zoth the Corruptor and Blood Reaver Gul'dan can take over. Another weakness of Odd Rogue is its difficulty in dealing with opposing boards if they're too far behind, since the rogue has almost no AoE removal of its own. An early big board combo from Snip Snap Warlock simply cannot be answered by Odd Rogue, leaving the rogue with no choice but to beat the Warlock before that happens, which is easier said than done thanks to all the Warlock's easy AoE removal. Even with these weaknesses, Odd Rogue's early game pressure is the most consistent in the game, and the rogue's sure to dominate any opponent that can't find its answers in time. Thanks to its blisteringly fast curve and dominating hero power, Odd Rogue remains one of the most consistent aggro decks in the game, even after the shifts in the meta following Saviors of Uldum. The archetype continues to be a popular choice on ladder, so it's essential to be familiar with it whether you're playing with it or against it on your climb to legend. If this breakdown was useful to you, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with our Wild Hearthstone content, and let us know in the comments what decks you'd like us to feature next. Thanks for watching!